Stop raising a liar. That's what my mother said when my 8-year-old son told us his cousin Mason was hurting him. My sister Rachel laughed. Mason's too sweet for that. Then, at our family cookout, they did something I still can't forgive. They forced Noah to apologize. He sat there fighting tears while Mason smirked across the table. Nobody defended my son. Not my parents. Not my father. Nobody. That night, Noah cried himself to sleep. And while checking his homework, I opened the school parent app. A new tab appeared. Safety timeline, repeated peer conflict. I thought it was a mistake. Then I started scrolling. By the second page, my hands were shaking, because every adult in my family had been lying, and that's when I realized my son had been telling the truth all along. My name is Avery Collins. I live in Columbus, Ohio. And this is the story of how my family chose my nephew over my son, until the school timeline remembered everything they wanted forgotten. Noah used to tell me everything. What happened at recess? Who traded snacks? Which teacher made funny faces? Then, almost overnight, my 8-year-old became quiet. Too quiet. He stopped talking in the car after school. That was my first warning. One afternoon, I found his favorite blue hoodie stuffed under his bed. The sleeve was torn. Noah, what happened? He shrugged. I tripped. But Noah never hid dirty clothes. And when I reached for the sleeve, he pulled away. Like he didn't want me to look too closely. I didn't know it yet. But that wasn't from a fall. Every Friday, my parents watched Noah after school. He loved going there. Or at least he used to. Now every Thursday night he'd ask, "Do I have to go tomorrow?" At first I thought he was just tired. Then one Friday morning he whispered, "Can I stay home with you?" Something about his voice broke my heart. 2 weeks later, Noah came home hungry. His lunchbox was untouched. "Didn't you eat?" He looked down. My money was gone. "Did you lose it?" He shook his head, but said nothing else. Then I noticed something strange. He wasn't scared. He was embarrassed. That changed everything. 3 days later, Noah reached for his backpack, and I saw a bruise on his wrist. My blood ran cold. "What happened?" He answered too quickly. "I fell." The same answer. The same nervous smile. But children who fall don't memorize explanations. Children who are afraid do. That night, I sat beside him. "Noah, sweetheart, nobody's in trouble. I just need the truth." He looked at the floor, then whispered, "Mason pushes me." I froze. "My cousin Mason?" Noah nodded. "He takes my snacks." His voice became quieter. "And calls me the weak cousin." My heart shattered. Then Noah grabbed my hand. "Mom, please don't tell." "Why?" His eyes filled with tears. "Grandma said family problems stay inside family." I stared at him. When did Grandma say that? When I cried. I felt sick. Because my mother hadn't protected him. She had silenced him. That was my second warning. I called my sister Rachel immediately. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Mason? Bullying somebody?" He said Mason pushes him. "Oh, Avery, come on. Mason's too sweet for that." Then she added something that made my stomach turn. "Noah's sensitive." Sensitive. As if Bruises had feelings. I called my mother next. Carol didn't even hesitate. "Stop raising a liar." I almost dropped my phone. "What?" Rachel would never allow that. "Mom, Noah has bruises. Boys play rough. Noah's afraid." "No, Avery, he's dramatic. Just like you." Then she hung up. And suddenly I understood. They had already chosen sides. 2 days later, Mom invited everyone over for a family cookout in the backyard. She called it a chance to clear the air. I thought maybe she wanted to help. I was wrong, because after dessert, my father cleared his throat. Rachel smiled, and my mother looked at Noah and said, "Sweetheart, I think you owe Mason an apology." Across the table, my nephew smiled, And that smile made my blood run cold. Everyone grew quiet around the patio table. Noah looked at me, then at Mason, then at Grandma. My mother smiled sweetly. "Go ahead, sweetheart." My son was shaking, but before he could speak, Mason smirked and whispered, "See? Nobody believes you." I heard it. Noah heard it. But everyone else pretended not to. That was the moment I stopped expecting help. Noah never apologized. He just sat there silently. My mother sighed dramatically. Rachel rolled her eyes. Then Grandma placed an extra slice of pie in front of Mason. "Poor thing," she said, as if being accused wasn't enough. Mason grinned. Noah pushed away his food and didn't eat another bite. On my way out, Dad followed me. "Don't make this bigger than it is." I stared at him. "Noah has bruises. Boys fight." "No, Dad. Bullies fight." He sighed. "Avery, your mother is upset." "Not Noah, not me. My mother." That told me everything. Monday morning, I found Noah's backpack hidden in the closet. "Why isn't this packed?" He looked down. "I don't want to go." "Sweetheart, why?" His voice cracked. "Because lunch is the worst." Lunch? Not recess. Not class. Lunch. And he started crying before he could explain. That evening, I opened the school parent app to check homework assignments, math grades, attendance. Nothing unusual. Then something new appeared. A tab I'd never seen before. Safety timeline, repeated peer conflict. I frowned and clicked. At the top, one sentence appeared. Staff review completed. Parent access enabled. My stomach tightened. There was a date. 6 weeks earlier. 6 weeks. All this had been happening for 6 weeks. And I hadn't known. Because Noah had been protecting everyone, except himself. The first report came from the cafeteria. It wasn't dramatic. Just observations. Student Noah Collins observed crying. Food removed from tray. Peer conflict reported. Then I saw the name. Mason Hayes. My nephew. I stared at the screen, then read it again. And again. Another note had been added by a cafeteria aide. One sentence. One sentence that made me physically sick. Noah had told the staff. "Grandma says nobody believes me anyway." I dropped my phone. Because my mother hadn't just ignored him. She had taught him nobody else would care either. I kept scrolling. One incident, then another, then another. Different dates, different staff members, same names, same boys, same pattern. And suddenly I understood something horrifying. This wasn't one bad day. This wasn't roughhousing. It was repeated, documented. And everyone in my family had already decided Noah was the liar. Then I reached an entry from 3 weeks earlier. A recess supervisor had written, "Student pushed near fence. Multiple witnesses interviewed." Below it was another note, "Security footage reviewed. Timeline saved." Security footage, timeline saved. And beside the report was Mason's name again. I sat frozen in the dark. Because for the first time, I realized the school knew far more than my family ever admitted, and I hadn't reached the worst part yet. I kept scrolling. 3 separate playground reports appeared. Different dates, different staff members. Same conclusion. Noah had been shoved near the fence. Each time Mason blamed another student, but 2 classmates gave the exact same statement. Mason pushed him. My hands started shaking, because children had been telling the truth, adults hadn't. Then I opened the health records. Noah had visited the nurse 6 times. 6. Complaints, stomach aches, headaches, anxiety. One entry mentioned bruising on his wrist. Photographs had been taken. I felt sick. Because I'd asked about those bruises, and my son had lied to protect the people who hurt him. One note nearly broke me. The nurse had asked Noah why he kept saying he fell. His answer was documented. "If I tell, Grandma won't let Mom come over anymore." I burst into tears. My mother had turned love into a threat. And Noah believed protecting me mattered more than protecting himself. Then I found notes from the bus aide. Apparently, Mason blocked Noah from sitting down. Another student had moved away because Mason told everyone, "His mom's crazy." I froze. Crazy. A word Noah had never used, because he didn't hear it from school. He heard it from home, and Mason had learned it somewhere. Suddenly I remembered something. 2 months earlier, Rachel had joked at dinner. "Avery overreacts about everything." Everyone laughed, including my mother. I laughed too. Now I realized Mason had been listening. Children repeat what adults normalize, and my sister had normalized disrespect. Then I reached something unexpected. Parent contact history. I assumed my name would appear first. It didn't. The first contact listed was Carol Hayes, my mother. I stared at the screen. Mom had spoken to the school before I had. My blood ran cold. I opened the notes. The principal documented everything. My mother had requested that staff avoid family drama. Rachel had complained that Mason was being unfairly targeted, and my father had told administrators, "Avery tends to exaggerate." I couldn't breathe. They hadn't protected Noah. They had prepared the school not to believe me. The next morning, another mother, Mrs. Daniels, called me. She sounded nervous. "Avery, I think you need to see something." She sent screenshots. A parents' group chat. My sister Rachel had written, "Noah cries over everything." My mother responded with laughing emojis. Then I saw my father's message. "Keep this off the school record." I read it 3 times. Because there it was. Proof. They knew. That evening, Noah sat beside me on the couch. Very quietly, he asked, "Mom?" "Yeah, sweetheart?" "Am I really a liar?" My heart shattered. I wrapped my arms around him. "No, baby." "Then why does Grandma say I am?" I had no answer. Only tears. The following afternoon, my mother called. Her voice sounded cheerful. "Let's settle this once and for all." Another family cookout. Again. Rachel agreed. Dad agreed. And apparently, Mason wanted to apologize. My mother added, "And Noah should apologize too." I looked at the school timeline, then at the screenshots, then at my sleeping son, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because they thought they were inviting me to another family meeting. They thought it would be another conversation. They had no idea I already had answers. By Saturday afternoon, I already knew exactly what was coming. An apology. From Noah, not Mason. My mother even texted me beforehand. "Let's put this ugliness behind us." Ugliness. As if my son had created it, not endured it. I said nothing. I just brought my laptop. When we arrived, Mason was holding a brand new gaming console. Rachel smiled proudly. He's had such a hard month. A hard month. My son had stopped eating lunch, but Mason got presents. Then Noah squeezed my hand, and I felt him trembling. After dinner, Mom stood up. "Before dessert, I think the boys should make peace." Dad nodded. Rachel nodded. Then my mother turned to Noah. "Sweetheart, tell Mason you're sorry." Noah looked down and said nothing. Neither did I. Not yet. Rachel crossed her arms. "You need to teach accountability, Avery." Accountability, coming from the woman whose son had been reported for 6 weeks. Mason smirked again, the same smile Noah described. And suddenly, I realized something. Mason wasn't nervous, because he'd never been held responsible before. My father stood. "Come on, boys, shake hands." Noah froze, then whispered, "I don't want to." My mother sighed loudly, Rachel rolled her eyes, and Mason laughed. Actually laughed. That was enough for me. I stood up, walked to the living room, and turned on the television. My mother frowned. "What are you doing?" I looked at her. "The same thing all of you should have done 6 weeks ago." Then I connected my phone. Rachel suddenly looked uncomfortable. The school app appeared on the screen. Safety timeline, Repeated peer conflict. My mother laughed nervously. What is this? Then I opened the first report. Cafeteria incident. Noah crying. Food removed. Witness statements. Student involved. Mason Hayes. Nobody spoke. Then I opened the health records. 6 visits. Bruises documented. Photos attached. Noah lowered his head. My father leaned forward. Mom stopped smiling. Rachel looked pale. Then I read Noah's statement. Grandma says nobody believes me anyway. My mother burst into tears, but I wasn't finished. I opened the bus aid report. Student called victim's mother crazy. Then the next report. And the next. Different adults. Different dates. Same names. Same pattern. Rachel whispered, Mason. For the first time all night, her son looked scared. Then I opened the last section, and the room went silent. Formal safety case, district review, protective measures pending. Date opened, 2 days earlier. Rachel's face turned white. Dad slowly sat down. My mother whispered, No. Because the school hadn't just documented everything. They had already started protecting Noah. And for the first time, my family realized they were too late. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then my mother started crying. Noah, sweetheart. Grandma didn't know. Noah stayed beside me. He didn't move. He didn't run to her. He just held my hand tighter. Because children know the difference between being loved and being protected. And my son had learned it the hard way. Rachel finally looked at Mason. What did you do? Mason burst into tears. He told on me first. My sister blinked. What? Then Mason said something that made the room go cold. Grandma said he always makes things up. My mother's face crumbled. Because those words belonged to her, not him. Dad looked older than I'd ever seen him. He kept staring at the television, at the bus reports, the nurse records, the witness statements. Then he whispered, I thought boys just fought. I looked at him. No, Dad. You chose the easier explanation. And he had no answer. Rachel stood up. This is ridiculous. I'll call a lawyer. I almost laughed. Then I opened the final page. District review, witness interviews, photographs, security footage, formal documentation, the principal's signature. I closed the laptop. Good luck arguing with 6 weeks of evidence. Rachel sat back down. Because she knew. Monday morning, the school called. Noah was placed under a protection plan. Separate lunch periods, separate bus seating, different recess groups. And Mason would no longer be placed near him. Rachel was required to attend district meetings. For the first time, adults were protecting my son. Not explaining away his pain. Protecting him. That afternoon, I made another decision. I removed my parents from Noah's pickup list. My mother called immediately. Avery, you can't do that? Actually, I could. And I did. Because people who teach children to stay quiet don't get unlimited access to them. Not anymore. 3 weeks later, something beautiful happened. Noah came home hungry, not because somebody stole his lunch, because he'd eaten everything. Then he smiled. A real smile, and asked, Mom, can we get pizza? I almost cried. Because for the first time in months, he sounded like himself again. If you would have chosen your child over anyone else, comment below, my child comes first. Suddenly, everyone wanted forgiveness. Mom cried, Dad apologized, Rachel blamed stress. Even Mason wrote a card. But the apology that mattered most came from Noah. One night he hugged me and whispered, Thank you for believing me. And I realized something. He'd spent weeks wondering if I would. That thought broke my heart. The calls never stopped. Mom, Dad, Rachel, family friends, aunts. Everyone wanted things to go back to normal. But normal was the problem. Normal was where Noah got hurt. So one by one, I stopped answering. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because protecting my son mattered more than protecting grown adults from consequences. 6 months later, Noah started therapy. He made new friends. He laughed again. And one afternoon, while we were eating pizza, he looked at me and said, "Mom? Yeah? You believed me." I smiled. Always. Because they called my son a liar. They forced him to apologize. They protected the wrong child. But the school timeline remembered everything my family tried to erase. And when they failed to protect my son, I protected him from them.